Because of lax drug laws in places like the People's Democratic Republic of Portland, Oregon, fentanyl has become so pervasive that not even the infants are safe from it. Welcome back to the Political Living Room. I am Karen. This is my living room, and we are going to have a little bit of a chat. Coke and lemon. About fentanyl and the Democrats. All right, let's get right to it. So this is brought to us by the AP, and it says, Portland police are investigating a dozen fentanyl overdoses involving children. 5 are fatal. 5. Okay, let's take a look at the article. Here we go. Nearly a dozen children, including a 1-year-old, have overdosed on fentanyl since June in Portland, Oregon. So what have we got? June, July, August, September, October. So in 5 months. So about 2 a month. 1 is too many. There should be no children overdosing on fentanyl. How are the kids getting the fentanyl? Particularly the 1-year-old. How'd the 1-year-old get the fentanyl? Parents. Caregivers. Irresponsible drug users. That's it. The 1-year-old is not toddling down to the park and buying fentanyl. The parents or the caregivers of the 1-year-old have this extremely dangerous substance around the 1-year-old. Those people need to go to jail. But let's keep going. So, this is an intensifying alarm in a city like so many others that has struggled to address the deadliest overdose crisis in U.S. history. They're not struggling to address a damn thing. This is exactly what these people want. The Democrats are not stupid. They could foresee this. My question is why? Why, in the United States, do we want certain strata of our population to off themselves? What are we trying to do here? Seriously, let's keep going. Police said 10 minors have overdosed since June, and fentanyl is suspected in all but one of the cases. Half of the incidents were fatal. A 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, and 5-year-old, and 2 15-year-olds are among the dead, the Portland Police Bureau said in a news release. The 15-year-olds could have procured it themselves. Definitely the babies? Oh no, absolutely not. A growing number of children are dying of fentanyl overdoses across the country amid an escalating opioid crisis that last year claimed 80,000 lives, according to federal data. In the past month, a 2-year-old with a significant amount of fentanyl in her system died at home. Yeah, because her parents are degenerate druggies, and they killed her. A 1-year-old died of a suspected fentanyl overdose at daycare, another demon, and a 15-month-old in California died after being exposed to the substance in her home, more degenerate drug users. And they are supported by Democrats, by the United States government. Let's keep going. Police in Portland have increased protocols to shut down an open-air fentanyl market at an abandoned building in downtown. Tina Kotek just this week announced plans to address fentanyl flowing into the state. Why, do you want to increase it? Haven't had enough kids die yet? Kotek said she has directed the Oregon State Police to increase staff on local drug enforcement teams and to boost patrol and detective resources, among other things, in order to disrupt the fentanyl supply chain. Unless and until you're putting people in jail for having fentanyl or selling it, this will not stop. It will simply continue. You have to put people in jail. You just have to. There is no other way to solve the problem, unless, of course, you're just going to wait for them all to murder themselves with this drug and take their kids with them. If you want people to stay alive, you have to put them in jail. And it is not the job of law enforcement to take care of people's psychological and emotional problems. The job of law enforcement, ideally, is to protect property. But it's also my property, your property, right? And one of the things that is our property is our self, our physical self. And so if the job of law enforcement is to protect our physical selves and our property from criminals, allowing this kind of disorder to proliferate is a dereliction of duty. Let's keep going. Portland police say they're concerned. Of course they say they're concerned. They're not going to, shit, I don't care, man. I don't give a fuck. It's like, they're not going to say that. Police say they're concerned by the growing number of juvenile overdoses. The number of such overdoses since June alone is higher than the total number investigated over the past 3 years combined. Of course, because as the Democrats remain in power, the decay of our society advances. So, of course, you're going to have more babies dying from fentanyl exposure because you're going to have more degenerate drug users. And I don't care who's offended by that, really. You're going to have more degenerate drug users who expose their children to this deadly substance. Okay. The episodes are considered suspected overdoses until confirmed by the medical examiner's office. Okay. Now, I don't really hold out much hope for Democrats. Pardon me. I got a seed there. But they might not be completely useless. Check this out. As addiction crisis worsens, Oregon lawmakers consider hammer for drug dealers. And that is exactly what they need. They need to bring the hammer down hard. Boom. Bring the hammer down. Okay. Prosecutors and Republicans say a 2021 court opinion has made it too hard to convict dealers. Top Democrats are listening. I think the Democrats are starting to realize that they will lose, and they will lose big to the Republicans, because people are sick of this shit. They're sick of the tent cities that are now creeping into the suburbs, right? They're sick of not being able to walk down the street without smelling all the crusties. I've been out to Portland. That is a thing. Portland is a beautiful city. I love it out there. I wanted to move out there. But it has fallen apart so completely under the Democrats. I think they know that nice high tax base they've got, right, with all of those very well-heeled folks, will collapse. Because if people have this much money, if they've got enough money to live in Portland, they've got enough money to live in other places too. They won't stay. Why are you going to pay to live in some beautiful house? And there are some lovely neighborhoods in Portland. Oh my goodness. You've got the deciduous trees with the palm trees and the flowers all over the place. Oh my God, it's spectacular. But why would you pay all of that money, all of those property taxes, to live in a city where you can't walk down the street, even if you live in a ritzy neighborhood, without having to worry about stepping on some syringes? You can't let your kids go to the park because the junkies are in there dying. I mean, you see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Okay. In 2021, the Oregon Court of Appeals issued a ruling that upended more than 3 decades of precedent on how the crime of delivering a controlled substance was defined under state law. Right. So the Democrats had to just kind of get rid of that, right? They had to decriminalize, because one of the things that the Democrats run on is freedom. It's not freedom to Well, actually, it is freedom to. It's freedom to commit. It's freedom to commit antisocial acts, and also freedom from consequences. Okay. The appeals court opinion became the law of the land on Thursday when it was upheld by the Oregon Supreme Court. Right? So with the move, police and prosecutors suddenly faced a higher bar to convict people of dealing illicit drugs and say they have to now settle for possession charges that carry more lenient punishments. Right. So does that make any sense? That someone could have like a big freaking kilo of fentanyl and all you can charge them with is possession? Of course. Lawmakers can't alter the legal reasoning, but they can change the state law. Awesome. And after unsuccessfully pushing a bill to counter the decision 2 years in a row, Oregon prosecutors now feel the wind at their backs. Or maybe it's just all the junkies passed out at their feet. They can't walk down the street anymore. I don't know. I don't think it's a wind. I think it's the effort from stepping over people passed out from fentanyl. It's probably gotten their attention. What we need to do in order to stop trafficking behavior is the system needs to be a hammer. That's right, said Kevin Barton, the Washington County District Attorney. We don't have a hammer anymore. That's right. Unleash the hammer. Bring the hammer. Okay. Prosecutors, feeling momentum for the first time in years, could use the current crisis to press for even steeper penalties for dealers and stronger consequences for people repeatedly caught with small amounts of drugs. I think that there should be mandatory jail time for people whose children are found to be exposed to fentanyl. Lots of jail time. Republicans see those decisions as overdue, while GOP lawmakers call for recriminalizing drugs. Please. Because here's the thing. When you decriminalize drugs, you remove a disincentive that will keep certain people from doing it at all or from doing it a lot. So, when you remove that disincentive, why should people not experiment? Everybody's doing it. The Democrats say it's okay. Remember, we're not good at critical thinking in this country. We do not think well as a group. So, if there's no consequence, why not? Okay. Democrats dismissed that possibility and were generally leery of making changes to a drug policy. Right, because I'm convinced Democrats want everybody high and stupid. They want everybody high, stupid, and sick. If you did not want people high, stupid, and sick, you would not decriminalize this type of behavior. You would not have open-air drug markets. You know what'll shut down an open-air drug market? 5 or 6 cops that arrest everybody and some DAs that are going to keep people in jail. That'll shut the whole goddamn thing down. It worked in the 90s to clean all the crack madness out of New York City. Okay. So, the party did support closing a loophole in state law that made it impossible to file a misdemeanor drug charge for fentanyl possession. What? It was impossible to file a misdemeanor drug charge for fentanyl. That's what I said. They want everybody sick, drugged up, and completely unable to think. That is a decriminalization of fentanyl, which is basically the most deadly drug known to man. What could possibly be the motivation for having such a loophole? And I don't want to hear anything about communities of color. Oregon is like 95% white. These are white people killing themselves like this. We were told that nothing changing ballot measure 110 would have been considered during the session. They wanted to allow more time for the programs to be implemented, but if Democratic lawmakers are newly receptive to cracking down on drug sales, they can expect plenty of pushback. Of course, because you have the wokey dopes who think that people dying of drug overdoses is freedom. And that if you curtail people's freedom to destroy their lives with drugs, that somehow or another, that militates against democracy. One of the things that democracy requires is people being able to think critically. If their brains are blown out from drug use, there's no critical thinking there. And they're dependent on the government to not take their substance away. Let's keep going. Defense attorneys warn that reverting to the old ways of prosecuting dealers risks falling back on drug war policies that had disastrous outcomes for communities of color. Not in Oregon, everybody's white. Everybody's white. Everybody's white. Everybody's white, white. Okay. There are some black people in Oregon, but it is a majority white state. And you know what? Let me tell you something about the communities of color. You know what happens in the communities of color when you take all the druggies out and all of the violent assholes that are shooting each other up over drugs? People have peace. You can sleep through the night. There's no gunfire in the street. You can walk down the street and not be afraid. You can go across the street or around the corner or down the block and get yourself a Snickers bar or some Ben & Jerry's in the middle of the night without having to worry about some skell, and this is something that actually happened to me, some skell running down the street with a knife in his hand like this, chasing another idiot. I did not live in that neighborhood for very long. So that's what happens in the communities of color. The people who live there can actually, live. Shocking. If we're not careful in how we amend the Oregon law, we risk inadvertently scooping up people who suffer from addiction. Okay, look. If it's illegal to have the damn substance, it's illegal to have the substance. It's illegal to have it in your hand. It's illegal to have it in your blood. How about that? It's a thing. And treat them the same as cartels. Actually, you know what? No, you don't have to do that. There can be individual considerations, but it should be illegal for everybody. So, she's focused on the daily chaos increasingly being documented in Portland with another harrowing narrative in the New York Times or a story about a mass overdose in a city park. I didn't know about this. Look at this crazy shit. Look at this. Mass overdose at Pearl District Park, the most Portland fire has seen during a single call, because they didn't call the EMTs, they called the firemen. But everybody's supposed to have Narcan now. They're trying to sell Narcan to preschools. Let me ask you a question. How many of you think that one of the reasons that fentanyl is being allowed to proliferate is so that people can make a lot of money with Narcan? They're selling Narcan to libraries. Like I said, they're trying to sell it to preschools. They're trying to sell Narcan to elementary schools. They want everybody to have Narcan. They're recommending that people walk around with Narcan just in case you happen to, run up on an OD and junkie. Kinda no. 8 people overdosed near the North Park blocks. 4 were taken to the hospital. All were in their late teens or early 20s. 4 people were taken to the hospital and 4 other victims refused to be transported. Officials believe that the group had purchased a powder that they snorted together, apparently unaware that it contained fentanyl. Can we please go back to at least trying to teach kids not to do drugs? Can we do that? Okay. So this is what the Democrats consider freedom to be. You see this person here? This person who is asleep or passed out, probably passed out because it's still daylight, in the middle of the street, presumably from using drugs. The Democrats think that this is freedom and that if you take this away from this person, you have curtailed their freedom. What is this person free to do? Really, in this state, what is this person free to do? Yeah, exactly. Let's keep going. So you can see this person has gotten a big dose of freedom. This is what the Democrats believe freedom is. And here's some more freedom for you, brought to you by the woke Democrats who really believe that the height of freedom is being allowed to use drugs until you die with no government interference. Yay, Democrats. This is why I'm not voting for any of them. Alrighty, I will see you in the next video, and until then, happy spooky season and have a great night. Bye-bye.